So, this is part 3 of my solo travel. So, after leaving my family in Podgora, I started driving towards Bosnia. Unfortunately, I didn't film any of the journey up there, which was like a 3 hour drive, and like across the border, which was like the thing I was most scared about. So, I'm a bit annoyed I didn't like capture any of that, but it all went fine, and I just showed my passport. They asked me a few questions and then stamped it and let me through. First stop was Kravica Waterfall or National Park. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it was really cool. It was a lot smaller than I expected. It was just kind of one big waterfall with like a restaurant, and then you could do this walk, but it was kind of down like a. I still can't tell if I was meant to go that way, but I ended up at these really cool waterfalls, and the water was really blue and kind of looked like there might have been chemicals in it or something to make it so turquoise, but it was really beautiful and empty. I saw two other people when walking down there, whereas the first bit there was like so many people there. Um, yeah, I don't really know if it was worth it. I mean, the second bit was really pretty, but it was nothing special. But yeah, it's good. So after visiting there, I continued on up to Mostar and stopped at Positelkula. Please, I tried my best there. I even listened to it on Google Translate. But it's like this cool old town that was kind of abandoned during the war. It's like a lot of history, and only recently have people started moving back into it. It's a beautiful place though, and definitely worth a visit. I went twice. Not only is there cool views, but it's cool history, and there's um, less regulations, so you can literally climb up everything, even if it looks sketch. And it's just really, really interesting place. And even better, I was literally the only person there in the whole town. I saw one person selling things, and maybe a little kid as well, and a lot of cats. But that was it. After that, I really did head off to Mostar, and this is where I was a bit scared because I didn't know where I was going. I didn't have signal, because I didn't realize my internet didn't work in Bosnia, so I was paying like £5 a minute for internet, which, yeah, don't get me started. I got there and I just parked on the street. I couldn't read any of the signs, so I didn't know if I was going to get fined, but everyone else was parked on the street, so I just prayed and kind of wandered down some streets to try and find the hostel I was staying at, which was a nightmare because it wasn't really clear where it was, and yeah, I I rely too much on Google Maps apparently, so just couldn't find it. And but I made my way there, and luckily, the saint of a hostel owner, him and his sister ran it with their mother, and they just have such an amazing story to tell, and were just so welcoming. I got there and he was like, "Oh, how did you get here?" And I was like, "Well, actually, I parked my car on the road. Do you know if it's okay?" And he was like, "Oh, bring it down here." And I looked down the street and it was an alleyway. And he was like, "Yeah, I can get it down." And I was like, I looked at him hesitantly and he was like, "Do you want me to drive it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I went into the story of how I hired a car. It was meant to be tiny. I got there and they gave me an SUV, and I've never driven an SUV. It was huge. So yeah, he took pity on me and took me in and proceeded to move the car for me every time it needed to be moved. Thank you so much. But yeah, that's like what makes hostels for me. Like, I've never stayed at a hostel like this because it always scared me, like intimidated me a bit. The idea of being in like basically a family's home, but it was amazing. So once I'd kind of got settled in, I started talking to some of the other people. Turns out they were going on a hike, and the hostel was trying to talk us out of it. He was like, "Do you realize how far it is?" And we are like, "Yeah, it's fine. We've got our walking boots." They were like backpackers. They always think they and it was a long walk. It was a really beautiful walk though, and so when we were coming down this mountain hill, no, I'm gonna call it a mountain. I'm gonna be optimistic. Um, we suddenly realised that there's undiscovered landmines in Bosnia, so you shouldn't really wander off any paths. And on our way down, we decided to take a shortcut that someone had told us about. Can't remember who it was, but we were like, "Oh, if we go down here, it'll be quicker." We quickly discovered we were just kind of on a track. Like, I don't know if it was an animal track or what, and we were like, "We're really close to Mostar. I It'd be really unlikely, right?" But we did start hurrying, and we're all good. But don't be stupid, tourists like us, and don't do that. Don't go off the tracks. It's not safe. It genuinely, like, you gotta be careful there. So when we got back down, we went for a meal. One of the people in our group had been to this. It's called the Sniper Tower because it's what in the war snipers used to sit on the top of it, and it's abandoned building now. There's so many in Mostar, so it's kind of a tourist attraction now, which feels a bit sick in a way. But I wanted to kind of see what it was about, so we kind of went to this abandoned building and climbed up to the top, and it was kind of crazy because I thought it would be really sad and like eerie, but it wasn't. I guess maybe that's because it was just filled with graffiti and obvious signs of people and teenagers just going in there. So it didn't really feel like I thought it would. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's like this. It is eerie, but it's also just insane. Just standing on top and seeing the view is yeah, it's an insane experience. So the next day, the hostel runs a guided tour, like a bus tour, and he just like gives you loads of history. He tells you his story, and he takes you to all these places. Two of which are the ones I went to the day before, but I decided to go just because I wanted to hear his story really and like his perspective, and also like I'd been to these places but I hadn't heard anything about them. I didn't know anything about them. Also, being with other people meant I could be a bit more risky, so um, the tour, the hostel owner convinced us to walk up one of the walls to the castle, which was just like something I wouldn't do on my own because if I'd fallen, like I'd be on my own, and it's dangerous. But if you're with other people and you fall, it's a bit less dangerous. But also just mentally, kind of telling yourself to do something on your own is scarier than if someone tells you to do it and you're like, okay, it can't be as bad then. I know, herd mentality. But yeah, it was just a really fun experience, and to do with other people as well. So although traveling on your own is like empowering and cool, it's also nice to do things with people and meet people that you can share these experiences with that kind of give you the confidence to do things you wouldn't do on your own. So on the last day, I just kind of had a couple of hours to kill before I decided I was going to drive down. So I woke up early and just had a wander around Mostar because I hadn't really had much of a look around the town. Um, I'm not a big town person, so I wasn't too bothered, but it would have been nice to be able to see the markets a bit more. So I definitely want to come back to Bosnia because there's so much more to see and hear, and um, I only saw the tiniest amount in the couple of days I was here. So um, yeah, it was beautiful. I keep saying that, but it was. I think Bosnia is probably one of the nicest places I visited. Let your beauty unfold. So I was on my way to Dubrovnik now, and I decided to stop along a few places on the way. So I stopped at this town, just to have a little wander around, break up the drive. By this point in my trip, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't exhausted. Like, I had to stop on this drive because I felt like drained. I physically couldn't like just concentrate. I was just so tired. So I stopped, like had a little nap and then kept going. But I think it's just being on your own, the amount of alertness you need to travel on your own as a woman as well. is it just does take it out of you. So I did realize in this trip how much I need to give myself more time to rest. I mean, because this was such a short trip, I was constantly going. So, spoiler, but I'm about to set off on another adventure. This one with no determinate ending. So I am going to give myself the time this time, which is so good about this trip. Was I realized, that's what I need as a solo traveler, is the time to rest and not constantly with friends and trying to all the time with people, because I am an introverted person, so I need that time to recoup on my own as well. And that's okay. So just giving myself that grace. Dubrovnik. So when I got to Dubrovnik, I met up with some friends from Bosnia actually, because it seems like there's kind of a route that goes through Europe, so a lot of people kind of stick to it. And so I followed these people kind of on the way. I'd actually been in the same places as them before, but just not crossed paths with them. So one ended up staying with me for a night because his hostel wasn't very good and he didn't get much sleep. So he was like, "I'll come stay with you for the night." So we went out for dinner and then we went for a little walk. And then the next day, me and my friend bought the Dubrovnik pass, and just spent the whole day wandering around, which didn't help with my tiredness, I'm not gonna lie. But by the end of it, I think because me and him kind of had this understanding, we just kind of went back and just kind of stared at the wall and just didn't talk for a while, which is the kind of friends you need to meet when you're an introvert. It's just kind of those people that are fine to just chill. So yeah, that was good.
How do you see me? How can I see you? How do you see me? How can I see you? Can we blend in it too? Can we blend in it too? Where there's no me or you, where there's no me or you, and let spirit flow through, and let spirit flow through.
For my last day, I decided I'd heard about this walk up the mountain behind Dubrovnik. There was a chairlift up to it, but I didn't have much money left, so I decided I was going to hike up and watch the sunset on my own because all of my friends had left at this point, and thought it'd be like the perfect ending to a trip, and it was. Just like walking up there on my own, empowered, and sitting at the top. I did some drawing, just meditated, watched the sunset, and just felt relaxed. Then I started walking down and it started getting dark and I felt a bit less empowered. But I got there back to my room, and yeah, it was just the perfect ending to a trip that honestly is going to set in motion a lot of things for me in my life, and made me realize that I can do things that I wanted to do for years and have been told by people I couldn't, or told myself I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't do it, I'd be too scared, I couldn't do it. I'm a woman, I couldn't do it. I'm an introvert, I'm too shy, I'm all these things, but I can do it, and I did do it, and I will do it. So yeah, perfect ending to the beginning, just the beginning.